I just got accused by my HOA's self-appointed queen of landscaping. She swore my 12-year-old daughter stole flowers from her community garden. Spoiler, I had the footage showing who really did the stealing. If you've ever been wrongly accused by a busybody neighbor, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories of justice served. The first crash wasn't metal on metal. It was ceramic on pavement. A flower pot, bright cobalt blue, smashed against my front walkway just past sunrise. The sound jolted me from my coffee and straight into the kind of day only a homeowners association can invent. Through the window, I caught the culprit in her coral robe and expensive sandals, Karen Gillis, chairwoman of our HOA's beautification committee. She stood over the shards like an archaeologist, discovering evidence of moral decay. Our roses rustled behind her. My 12-year-old daughter Emily froze on the porch steps, holding her bike helmet like a trophy of guilt. Karen pointed at the flower bed lining our curb. Petunias, pink and white, half upturned from a raccoon's midnight raid. "So," she said, voice slicing through morning air, "caught in the act, were we?" Before I could step outside, Karen was snapping photos on her phone, narrating her own investigation for the HOA group chat. Resident child seen uprooting communal flowers. Violates Section 4A property presentation. Emily's voice broke as she tried to explain. She hadn't touched a thing. But logic was useless against the conviction in Karen's smirk. By noon, the entire neighborhood Facebook group was buzzing. Stealing HOA flowers? And what's wrong with kids today? That afternoon, a printed violation notice appeared taped to my door, with my last name spelled wrong, but the fine was unmistakable. $250 for damage to shared landscape. I've learned one thing living under an HOA. Outrage is fuel, but documentation is ammunition. So I didn't yell. I logged in. Our house sits on the corner lot, one of the few with clear camera coverage of the public strip. I pulled the footage from our security system archive, time-stamped 5:14 a.m., scroll back 12 hours, raccoon 2 hours later, sprinklers, 30 minutes before Karen's moral crusade, a jogger with 2 dogs, one stopping to dig. At exactly 6:47 a.m., Karen herself, plucking flowers from the HOA median and arranging them into a basket. Caught in the act, indeed. I copied each clip into a labeled folder, Exhibit A. Then I reviewed the HOA bylaws, all 42 pages of pixelated PDF from 2003. Section 4A, Community Landscaping, applied only to HOA-managed flower beds not residents' own. And subsection 7 explicitly forbade removal of any plant material without board maintenance approval. Guess who chaired the maintenance oversight? Karen Gillis. By evening, I printed everything, footage stills, timestamps, bylaw excerpts, and even the photo Karen posted in the group chat boasting of her morning inspection. Her rope had tied itself. The next morning, I walked into the HOA office with Emily beside me. The manager, a tired man named Roger, looked up with the face of someone allergic to neighborhood politics. I slid the folder across the desk. "This," I said, "is what actually happened." He hesitated halfway through the footage, recognized Karen, and sighed audibly. "She reported your daughter stole flowers?" "She did," I said, "but these are her own hands removing them at 6:47 a.m. His eyebrows rose. "She's been acting like she runs a private botanical garden lately." I didn't smile. "You'll also want to note Section 4A.7. She violated the same bylaw she accused us under." He gave a slow whistle and took notes. "We'll call a committee review." That night, 3 cars slowed as they passed our property, drivers leaning for longer looks than usual. Neighborhood gossip metabolizes facts faster than fertilizer. I knew Karen would hear that the accused had receipts, and she'd hate it. The real show was about to bloom. By Friday morning, Karen's wrath was flowering in full color. Pink flyers appeared on mailboxes, warning residents about dishonest individuals using technology to distort. Truth? Translation. She knew I had footage and was already spinning the narrative. I stayed deliberately silent online. Silence unsettles bullies. It makes them guess what evidence exists. Instead, I spent the weekend preparing my case the way a prosecutor might prep for trial. I exported additional footage, different angles from both doorbell and driveway cameras. I overlaid timestamps, backing them up with the system log to confirm chain of custody. Every second was watertight. I also gathered emails from Karen's account, messages she'd sent through the HOA listserv threatening disciplinary action. The kicker: her timestamps matched the moment she was on camera at my flower bed. That meant she'd been firing off accusations while actively trespassing. The next step was expert confirmation. I called my neighbor Sam, a police deputy who lived 2 doors down and had endured his own run-ins with Karen over lawn height standards. He agreed to come over that night. We reviewed the footage together under porch light, both of us smelling honeysuckle and popcorn grease drifting from someone's backyard movie night. Sam folded his arms. "Chain of custody looks clean," he said. "If she damaged your property and used HOA authority to fine you, that's false reporting. You could take it to small claims, or the board hearing if they're smart enough to hold one." I smiled. "Let's make sure they're smart enough." On Monday, the board meeting convened in the subdivision clubhouse, a one-room echo chamber with folding chairs and a faint lemon cleaner sting. Karen sat in the center seat, pearl necklace gleaming like diplomatic armor. Around her, 6 other board members shuffled the agenda. "Next, we'll discuss violation notice 2437B, Karen announced with that artificially sweet tone. "Property defacement. Offender, resident Emily Carter." I stood, handed Roger the same folder I'd given him earlier, but this time I'd added a USB drive labeled Exhibit A Complete Video Evidence. Karen rolled her eyes audibly. "We're not here for some YouTube courtroom drama," she said. Roger inserted the drive into the laptop projected on the wall. The clip rolled, first the raccoon, then the jogger. Then Karen herself, crouching, pruning, and strolling away with a stolen bouquet like she was auditioning for a gardening show. The gasp in the room was almost cinematic. Karen lunged toward the screen. "That's been doctored. You can't trust home footage." Sam, in uniform now, rose from the back row. Footage was verified under chain of custody at 21:07 hours 3 days ago. No edits. Fuller copy preserved on original system. Karen went pale, the color draining faster than fertilizer runoff. The vice chair cleared his throat. "So to clarify, you removed flowers, accused a minor, and issued a fine." Karen sputtered. "They were common property." Roger flipped his bylaws packet. "Section 4A only applies to HOA-maintained lots. The Carter's frontage is private property. You, Mrs. Gillis, violated subsection 7 by removing plant material without authorization. The silence that followed could have fertilized the entire subdivision." I kept my smile steady but polite. "I'll accept an apology and the fine rescinded. Also per Section 8, misuse of HOA authority constitutes grounds for temporary committee suspension." Karen's jaw tightened. "You're bluffing." Sam cut in like a period at the end of a rant. "Not bluffing. Just procedure. The board voted 6-1. Fine revoked. Karen suspended pending review." As we left, neighbors murmured congratulations the way people whisper around a bonfire, half in awe, half in disbelief. On the walk home, Emily kicked gravel instead of words. "Mom," she said quietly, "we actually won." "Justice," I told her, "blooms best in sunlight." But Karen wasn't the type to wilt quietly. The next morning, a new email lit up my inbox titled, "Formal Complaint, Digital Harassment." She was doubling down. I knew what that meant. She was trying to weaponize the procedure again. Time to escalate with precision. Karen's complaint landed in my inbox like a poisoned dart disguised as paperwork. 5 pages of legal-sounding nonsense accusing me of unauthorized surveillance and targeted digital intimidation. It even cited random privacy codes from other states. Classic scare tactic. Bury the truth under thick stacks of jargon. I wasn't rattled. I'd already filed a counter-report with the county's code enforcement office. If Karen wanted to play lawyer, she could meet a real one. That afternoon, I called in an expert ally, Marissa Holt, a property attorney who specialized in HOA governance. She spoke like a metronome, every sentence landing in perfect rhythm. "Surveillance on your own property focused outward is entirely lawful," she said. "And her misuse of authority while serving as an officer qualifies as a breach of fiduciary duty." Translation: Karen wasn't just wrong, she was about to owe me. Marissa drafted a cease and desist backed with citations from both state statute and the HOA's corporate filings. She also recommended we request financial disclosures. Apparently, there'd been irregular expenses under the Beautification Committee's budget. The word embezzlement hung unspoken between us like pollen in humid air. While Marisa handled the paper trail, I managed the optics. I trimmed the flower bed, replanted what Karen had destroyed, and added a new security sign right next to it, bright yellow, camera icon gleaming in the afternoon sun. Subtle as a megaphone. 2 weeks later, the HOA called a mandatory community meeting, attendance mandatory for all members, including suspended officers. I arrived early, laptop under my arm, wearing my calm armor. The clubhouse buzzed with the sort of polite chaos that always precedes a reckoning. Karen entered, flanked by 2 allies from her committee, their faces sharp with indignation. She carried a stack of printouts, the same ones she'd threatened me with. "I have evidence," she announced before the meeting was even called to order. Roger, now acting chair, nodded toward me. "So does Mrs. Carter. Tonight we're resolving both complaints." The projector hummed to life again. Not the old footage. New documents this time, financial reports pulled by Marissa's team. Line items from HOA funds labeled garden supplies matched receipts from a boutique floral shop 20 miles outside the community. Total, by 40,318 over the past quarter. Purchases signed by Karen Gillis. The crowd shifted like a wave catching wind. Karen stammered, "Those were for seasonal displays." Roger scrolled further. "Except those displays don't exist, nor the planters they were purchased for." He tapped the screen. "You used HOA funds for personal property, then issued fines to cover the shortfall." My laptop chimed. I mirrored the feed. Time-stamped footage from my driveway the same day one of those transactions occurred. Karen unloading identical floral arrangements from her SUV into her own front yard. The tension in the room was electric, humming louder than the ceiling fan. Marisa, seated beside me, handed over the cease and desist packet. "Our client will waive damages for harassment if Mrs. Gillis resigns immediately and reimburses the HOA." Karen's allies suddenly found fascinating details on the floor tiles. The vote was quick. Unanimous removal. Demand for reimbursement. Formal apology to Emily recorded in minutes for the official record. Karen tried a final move, threatening to appeal, but Roger reminded her that appeals required standing, and once removed, she had none. The words landed like a gavel. When the meeting adjourned, I stepped outside into the thick summer dusk. The air smelled of cut grass and some lingering sweetness, the new petunias blooming again under porch light. Emily waited at the end of the walkway, throwing her bike helmet in slow circles with one hand. She said, "Sorry," Emily said, half disbelief, half satisfaction. "She had to," I answered. We followed the rules she weaponized. Karen's house went dark a week later, for sale sign up by month's end. The HOA refunded our fine, and even offered Emily a community award for neighborhood integrity. She accepted it with the unbothered grace of someone who knows the cameras are rolling and the truth is safe on tape. My takeaway? Paper trails and patience beat pitchforks every time. Document, don't dramatize. Let your calm do the convincing. If you've ever stared down an HOA tyrant or a self-appointed neighborhood enforcer, you know the satisfaction when truth finally blooms. Drop your story. Let's keep the light on them.